morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Happy Monday, happy Monday. Ooh, I've been sun-kissed. That's right. 1 second. I have to get my sunglasses on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't know if you guys remember that sound. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It actually comes, some of you may remember it from the 99-cent store, but before that, way back in the late 90s, there was, or mid 90s, there was a messenger thing back when AOL was like booming, and it was called ICQ, and it was a messenger it was a worldwide messenger, I should say. So people all over the world would chat with one another, kind of like America Online chatting, but you could be like in Australia, Brazil. I remember chatting with people all over the place. It was so fun. Anyway, anyway, so today, I want to talk about a post that someone posted on Facebook, and I believe it read, one lie can have you question all truths. Oh my gosh. When I saw that, I was like, eh. Eh. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I have my headpiece on, or my earpiece. So I figured if I wear it, then it may not pick up as much road noise or wind noise. We'll see. But I just heard that little thing giving me warnings about disabled vehicles. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, if I have this on. Anyway, so yeah, so one lie can have you question all truths. Well, the reason why I was like is because it's false. Like, it's not actually true. If one lie can do all that, then you never had the truth to begin with. Now, I'm not saying you don't know the truth, because like I've said before, you can know something in your mind, but it not be solidified in your soul. And so if you're able to let one lie disrupt your entire world, it's because it wasn't solidified within your being. You may have known it intellectually, you may have had the knowledge intellectually, but it wasn't within your soul. It wasn't solid within your being. Because once you have truth and it's solid within your being, there is no lie that can shake that. There is no lie that can shake that. Unless you want to believe it. Unless you want to believe it. Unless you want to believe it. If you don't want to believe it, because if the truth is solidified within your being, then it can't be moved because it's solid, unless you choose something else. But that is a strong, hard choice you would have to make in order for that to happen. But generally what happens is someone says, listen, like, let's say you're in a relationship, and someone says, oh, I think I saw your husband talking to some girl, or some lady, at the grocery store. If you believe and truly feel that your marriage or relationship is solid, whatever your friend or whoever told you what they told you won't matter. It won't shake anything. What you'll do is you'll ask a question without doubt. Without doubt, meaning you won't doubt your spouse, you won't doubt your partner. You're just simply asking, oh, so-and-so saw you at the store today. She was telling me how, you were talking to them. Oh, yeah, that was my so-and-so from way back when, or whatever. Or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if your marriage or relationship is truly solid, and you know as a truth that it is solid, and this person will never step out on you, it won't shake you. It won't have you question your entire 20-year marriage or 20-year relationship. That won't happen, because you'll have the faith and trust and love that binds it all together, that holds it together. And there's no lie that can destroy that. So if one lie can destroy something, that only means that it wasn't solid to begin with. It means that you did not... Oh, you really... I'm going to do it anyway, because you want to be an asshole. You don't want to be assholes this morning. Be an asshole. Be an asshole. Anyway, it means it wasn't solid, And so that means there were lots of things along the way, along the relationship, that created doubt before this even happened. Before. So that means that the person was doing something that had you question the relationship before and you never said anything, or you have doubt within yourself. Because look, there's a lot of people who have doubt in their relationship, and there's absolutely no reason for them to have doubt aside from the fact that they woke up. They were raised having a lot of doubt, believing that certain things weren't going to work. I wonder, I don't know if my windshield is, I'm trying not to do this with a lot of cars behind me, but I want you to have the best visual experience possible. I hate when people do that to me. I gotta do it, but I gotta do it. Okay, that looks a little better. Actually, looks a lot better. Okay, just let it dry. Let it dry, Bradley. So yeah, and this is with anything. If one person can tell you something, and this is across the board, it doesn't have to be relationships, it could be whatever. If one person says, hey, this is, there's a lie here, and it has you question everything else, there's a problem. Because not one thing should be able to erase the things that are true. So someone could, I should say, let's say you lived your life, with a partner, and you've been together for a long time, and I'm about to get sun-kissed again. Let me grab my sunglasses again. You've been with them for a long time, and I think my windshield is worse. I think I kind of smeared the dirt or something. You were together a long time, and I'm really distracted right now. So distracted I forgot my... No, I didn't. Did I forget my coffee? Hold on a second. I think it's in my bag. Yep, it's in my bag. Oh, that's awful. This windshield is awful. Anyway, let me fix this right now. Okay. Hopefully that's better. I don't know. Anyway, if you have been living your life with a partner and there was one lie, just say there was one lie. That one lie should not be able to destroy the entire 20 or 30 year relationship that you've had. It shouldn't be able to do that. But like I said, the only way that's able to happen is if you weren't solid in the relationship to begin with. Meaning there was a lot of lies prior, there was a lot of doubt prior, there were a lot of unloving things done prior, but there wasn't truth within the relationship. There wasn't truth holding it together, binding it together, creating a strong bond. It was weak, and so that's why one lie can unravel something, but that's the only time it can unravel something like that. You can even go all the way back to Adam and Eve. When you look at them, or Amon and Aman for those who want to Google some stuff. They're, going all the way back to them when they were perfect. Perfect man, I should say, not perfect with divine love, but perfect with natural human love. The love that a soul is able to generate on its own without the Creator's divine love. Anyway, when you go all the way back to that and you look at the first fall, the only reason why that one lie unraveled everything is because they started believing multiple lies. It wasn't just one lie. It's not like in the Bible where you have the apple and the serpent. I think that's in the Bible, the apple and the serpent. That one lie didn't make, wasn't the cause for the fall of humanity. It was a multitude of lies combined. Meaning they thought that they could be better than they are, or that they were at the time, without God's assistance. When God was offering their love, they rejected it. And that was a lie. That was an untruth. And so that untruth led to other untruths. But it wasn't one untruth unraveling everything. And I can tell you, just by the way things happen, when they noticed the fall, when they noticed that they fell from their state of perfection and they had offspring, they were able to see the degradation. But in their shame, they said nothing. They didn't say anything. There wasn't an acknowledgement of that. And so what happened is they continued to deny the truth. And it was one untruth after the next untruth, after the next untruth, after the next untruth, and it just continued to happen. But it was a multitude of them. It wasn't just one lie unraveling the truth, because you can't destroy truth. You cannot destroy truth. Truth is always there, so it can't destroy it. It can't have you. Now, you may question, but the thing is, if, like I said, if it were solidified within your being, you wouldn't question it. It wasn't solidified. And so it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. The same thing with I should say, what is it? Satan. So, and I probably shouldn't even use it because it's not even a real thing. But the whole Satan thing, it's believed that Satan fell from perfection. But we're not talking about man's perfection. We're talking about divine perfection. Once you have divine perfection, you cannot fall. It's impossible to fall. And the reason why is because it's solidified within your being. See, Adam and Eve didn't have solidified truth within their being. Because they were the first ones there, they really didn't know the difference between truth and everything else. Because they were the first ones on the scene. And the reason, and it's able to be seen in their story because they were able to fall. Because they didn't know better. They thought they knew better, but they didn't know better because they didn't have truth solidified within their being. But once you become a celestial being, once you move into the 8th dimension, it is solidified, and you cannot fall. This is why the whole story of Satan falling, which is basically God's right-hand angel, which can't be true because it failed. So just the fact that that falsehood was attached to an angel, it can't even be true because it's a false statement, if that makes any sense. So that's what I'm saying, like, you cannot take something that is truth and question it or unravel it or take it away. The only thing you can do with it is use it as an anchor, because the way the universe is set up, the way God set it up, once it's solidified within you, it's solidified within you. That's it. You can't do anything to move it. God's love, God's trust, the truth is, God's love and God's truth is stable. It is solid, and you cannot do anything to it. You can only choose something else, but only if you don't have truth solidified within your being. So that statement, one truth can have you question all truth. Well, yeah, of course you can question all truth, but you never had truth to begin with. So if you had 100 truths and they weren't solidified within your soul, but they were in your mind, you believe them to be whatever it is that they are, that doesn't mean, your beliefs don't mean that it's solidified within your soul. You believe, most children believe that their parents are going to protect them. Okay, that's a belief, but that doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it the truth. It makes it the truth only if truth is solidified within that being, within those parents. Oh, look at the wind was blowing crazy yesterday, so it is so clear today. It is so clear. Minimal haze. Wow. Wow, I can even see the ocean. I can see the ocean. I can see the ocean. I'm in the valley. I can see the ocean. That's pretty good. So yeah, you can't. Or I'm sorry, the parents. Only if it were solidified within their being could they actually love their children unconditionally. But because truth is not solidified within the beings of people on earth, because of the degradation that we have within it, they can't love their children unconditionally. And they just can't love their children because they don't know what love is. Love isn't trying to take away their pain. Love is helping them to where they don't create pain for themselves. You know, most parents think I have to protect my child, and that's loving to protect my child, and yes, to a certain degree it is, because the child cannot protect themselves. But to love your child is to teach your child to not incur any karma, not to have degradation in their soul to where they would have to protect themselves. Understand, a child only needs protection because of the degradation that has been passed on from the parents. And their parents have degradation based on what their parents passed on to them. So if you actually didn't have any degradation, you wouldn't have to protect yourself from anything. Because the law... Oh, no, not skunk again. Hold on a sec. So anyway, back to the parents. You know, that's, you know, I was having a conversation actually yesterday with a gentleman, a passenger of mine, and we were talking about fatherhood and just parenthood, and we were talking about the lack of love, because he was talking about mental illness and homelessness and things like that. And so I told him, you know, at the basis of all of it, the reason why, you know, you look at someone who's on the street, the reason why they're on the street is because there's a lack of love. Clearly they don't have anyone to depend on. They're going through something, and they can't seem to have people support them in a way to help them heal. And a lot of times it's because they don't know how to receive it, and also they haven't been given that love, so it's just void. And so what happens is they try to fill this void, and that's where a lot of drug-induced mental illnesses come from. It's trying to minimize the pain, but because they're engaging in an unloving thing, and most of all, actually, the primary reason is they're trying to ignore or deny the pain by using substances. So they're trying to cover it up, meaning they're trying to ignore it. And, you know, that's an unloving thing to do, because if you have pain within you, and if you look at pain like a cake with mold on it, and you don't want to look at the mold, what you do is you put frosting over it, you try to cover it up and make it look pretty. And that's not the way the soul is designed to operate. So when you choose your own way, which is how Adam and Eve, Amen and Amen, chose to live their life, when they realize their wrongdoing, how they were unloving, when they realized this, and they felt that there was something, a stain upon their soul, they tried to cover it up. And so there was no going back, because they were continually denying that they actually needed the Creator. And so they started doing things their own way, trying to cover it up. And when you do that, it gets worse. You know, it's like you can have mold on some cheese, and you can, you know, put it in a bag or whatever, and it's going to grow, even though you're putting, you know, you're trying to cover it up. You know, it doesn't work. You know, you have to remove it in order for it not to be there. And so that's how it works with the soul. You know, you have to face the emotional injuries, the degradation, the pain. Emotional injuries are pain for those who are kind of new. Emotional injuries are any emotional pains that you experience. This could be disappointment. This can be sadness. Well, it's all disappointment. It can also be from not having something. So most people are disappointed when they're not able to have something. And the thing is, we were created to have any and everything we want. So the natural consequence to not having any and everything we want is pain, is suffering. So suffering comes from a long period of experiencing pain, experiencing lack. So the longer you experience a lack of love, that's the length of your suffering, the pain. You know, so you're constantly in pain and you're suffering while you're in pain. And so the longer we ignore these things about ourselves that are stains upon our soul, we will continue to have the same experiences that lead to more pain, more suffering. So suffering is only sustained denial. That's what suffering is, sustained denial. So if your life is a certain way and you wish it were different, but it keeps happening the same way, it's because the same stain is still on your soul. And so the same experiences have to reoccur. Reoccurring. All of our experiences are reoccurring experiences. How many relationships have you been in? So one of the things that, you know, me and the gentleman were talking about was having children. Like, because his father wasn't present emotionally. His father wasn't present emotionally. There was a void there. And he attempted to compensate through another way, and so did other family members, to the point where the family member actually attempted to compensate so much. They veered off so much. They ended up being caught up in a lot of unloving events. A lot of unloving events that led to his death. And so it's this loss. And here's the thing with pain and suffering. Pain and suffering is there for you to get the lesson, to get the message. That's what it is. So when this person lost their family member, there was a huge void, a huge loss, and that was his wake-up call. That was the wake-up call that he needed. And it's all relevant and it's all necessary, because without that wake-up call, without having such a huge impact on his life, he wouldn't have changed. And he said that was it for me when that happened. And he said he was angry for a long time. Of course, you know, your anger is denial of pain, and so the pain was missing his family member, you know, missing his sibling. And so when you want to deny that pain, you get angry. But he realized that that's not the way to live. That's not the way to go. It's not healthy, and it's not conducive to a positive lifestyle. So when you're living a life that you don't want to live and you want it to be different, the only way for it to be different is if you change who you are on the inside, if you change your being. And this is what he did. And he wanted a different life, and he got a different life. And he was saying, you know, all these different events started happening to, you know, even from, you know, down to a job. And so, you know, when you look at the way that the soul operates, or I should say the way the universe operates and how it interacts with the soul, once you learn these things, you learn not to get involved in certain things, because you learn that the consequences will intensify, meaning the events will intensify. Where am I going? 1.4 miles. I think it's St. Glendale. I think it's St. Glendale. I may be able to get in here somewhere if I pay attention. Actually, I don't even mind getting in right here. I usually don't like getting behind trucks, but my stomach feels weird. Maybe I need some coffee. 1 second. Uno momento. Hi, I'm Dora. Can you say para pata? I have been saying that I don't know how many times, because I watched the movie Dora the Explorer and the Lost City of Gold, I think. Hi, I'm Dora. Can you say para pata? I don't know if she said that or not, but I think she said something about some yellow deadly frog or something. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, you know, these everything that I'm talking about, some people may agree, some people may disagree. And it doesn't matter, as long as it's the truth. And that's the thing. You can't change it. Your opinion can't do anything to change it. Your perception, your perspective, it's all irrelevant. All of it's irrelevant. I was going to put this in a different video, but it is really, truly irrelevant. Meaning, it's irrelevant to truth as far as truth is concerned. It's irrelevant to you because it determines whether or not you're going to be in alignment with truth or not. And this is what, questioning, and we're supposed to use a discernment, not doubt. People use doubt in place of discernment. And so when you have information, you compare it and you look at it. Don't just look at it, but feel about it. I don't, people, they ask, what's your opinion about this? My response is generally, it's irrelevant. My opinion is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you think and feel about it. That's it. It doesn't matter how or what I feel, because if you're looking at me to give you my opinion to help you with your direction based on how I feel, you're moving in the wrong direction, because it should be based on how you feel about it. Because when you use someone else's opinion or idea, even when people listen to my videos and they ask me for advice or they ask me questions, it's not, what's going on up here? Okay, people act like, they just be acting. Act like they can't go around. Like, I gotta stop, I can't go around. Okay, I see you. And you need to clean those windshields. You can't see a thing because I can't see a thing. That's crazy. I don't know. Folks need to go to the car wash. I go to the car wash about 3 times a week. So it's really bothersome when my windshield is like not on point. But anyway, it doesn't matter. When someone asks me their, my advice or my opinion or take on something, it shouldn't be because I say so. And this kind of goes back to that trust thing that the trust video, why I don't trust anyone anymore. It goes back to that. You shouldn't trust me. You shouldn't trust me. You should not put your trust in me. What you do is you listen to, if you know that the things that I say are beneficial, if you know that the things I say have been truthful, it's still your responsibility and obligation to yourself to use discernment, to look at what I'm saying and say, oh, okay, this makes sense, or that doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, and I have been speaking truth, then it's again your responsibility to do some research. Because when people tell me something, I have to do research. In order for me to believe it, I have to know, I have to understand. It's easier for me to know if someone's telling the truth now because I know more universal truths. These truths. I know from the universe's perspective these truths. And so when you have the fundamentals down and you have a question about something, it's easy to answer it yourself. You don't have to go asking other people. This is one of the reasons why I don't ask people questions. I don't have to, because I know the fundamentals of the universe. I know what is loving and what isn't. I've established the universal laws that are in place. I established what God sees as the truth, what the universe sees and uses as the truth. Well, I should say the universe uses the truth. God sees the truth, but the universe uses the truth because it was created in truth. It's based on truth. The structure of the universe is based in truth. It was created in truth. So that's how I know. You can just look at the consequences. Look at what happens to people who lie. People who deny the truth, because that's what a lie is, people who deny the truth will suffer. That is the consequence each and every time. Even if you don't see it, they will experience it. It's not about what you see and what you think people get away with. It has nothing to do with that. Again, it has nothing to do with your perception. So if you do not perceive them having a karmic consequence, it doesn't mean that it's not present. It doesn't mean that it's not being experienced. Because there's one thing I'll tell you about people who lie. They'll lie about their experiences. They'll lie about their karma. So if you see someone who's lying and you don't see any consequences, I can guarantee you they're lying, or they're in denial of it, which is still lying. Because if you're in denial of seeing the events that are happening to you, because the events are happening, you can't deny the events are happening. They are happening. But you can deny the events by lying about it. You see, you can't deny the truth that they're happening, but at the same time, you can deny that they're happening. You just can't deny the truth that they're happening. This is why I'm saying your perspective is irrelevant. Your opinions, my opinions, are all irrelevant. The only thing relevant is truth. And this is why it's so important for me to find it, to establish what that is. Not establish what it is, but to find it, to discover it, so that I can hold it, so that I can harness it, so that I can use it to create a better version of myself, a more pure, a more loving version of myself. That's all I live for. You know, it's easier for me because I don't have friends and family around, you know, because when you're around people, you tend to want to go with the groove, you know, you want to go with the masses. And so being that I'm not in that situation where there's a lot of people for me to follow, even when there's a lot of people around, I'm still like the Lone Ranger. I still do my own thing. You know, I don't involve myself with other people. I do that at work. You know, there's a lot of cliques. I don't belong to a clique. I'm Zach, and I'm on my own, and I'm doing fine. Because I see all these unloving things that people can't see that they're doing. You know, even if you, a common unloving thing is when someone doesn't want to do something, but they force themselves to do something. Why? Because family. Family does this together. If you don't want to do it, then you don't want to do it. And you have to ask yourself, why don't you want to do it? Why don't you want to be in an activity with the family? Or why don't you want to be in an activity with friends? Ask yourself. So people have invited me to clubs. They stopped inviting me because I don't want to go. It's not my thing. I don't want to go to bars. I don't want to drink. I don't want to smoke. So why am I going to put myself in an uncomfortable position? Now, if I'm uncomfortable and I'm choosing to be in an uncomfortable situation, it's my fault. And that means I'm not being unloving. I'm not being loving to myself. I'm being unloving to myself because I'm much more content being at home watching some TV or, you know, playing with my dog or eating some cake or doing something else. I actually have more fun cleaning the house than going out to a bar or a club. I don't mind whipping out the vacuum cleaner and some Windex. Actually, I enjoy that over a night of clubbing. You know, that's just me. And so I'm usually more content and happy because I do the things that I like to do. Now, I don't go out doing all kinds of crazy things. Not saying that things that people do are all crazy, but I don't enjoy it. You won't catch me surfing on a surfboard. Why? I don't enjoy it. It doesn't even look appealing to me. At some point, maybe I'll try it, but as of right now, there's no desire to do that. So I have to honor what my desires are. And you have to honor what your desires are. If you want to clean up your life and you want to stop drinking, then you're going to have to stop hanging out with the people who drink. Now, I'm not saying you stop hanging out with them, period. Stop hanging out with them when they're drinking, when they're smoking. If you want to stop smoking, then stop hanging around people when they're smoking. If people smoke all day long, then hey, guess what? Find yourself some non-smoking friends. If your friends drink all day long, all night long, and that's all they live for, guess what? Find you some non-alcoholic friends. It's that simple. But it's not that simple. Because it's that simple. But because of the addictions, because of the dependence the codependence that we have on these other people. You know what? I'm gonna get over now. Because of these codependent tendencies that we have, we tend to stay in environments that are not conducive to well-being. So when we ask ourselves, you know, why is my life like this? Why isn't my life? How come my life isn't changing? Because you're not changing. You're keeping the same thing. You're keeping the same routine. You're keeping the same people around. Look, if you keep the same people around, you're going to get the same result. You know, if you stock your kitchen with certain ingredients, I gotta put my sunglasses back on. Lord have mercy. Oh Lord Jesus, this is bright. Oh my goodness. Bright light, Mogwai. Bright light, Mogwai. I don't know if you remember that, Gremlins. Bright light, Mogwai. So, now I gotta take them off. Like, it's hard to see when the sun isn't completely out. Anyway, yeah, that's the reason why your life... if you stock your kitchen with certain spices and ingredients, you're not going to end up with anything different. You're going to have the same options, the same result. If you make a cake and you keep the ingredients the same, it's going to be the same thing. If you change it up, that's when you get a different result. But you have to desire it. You have to desire it. She said, peace sign, peace sign. And that's just period, people, in life. You know, if I want to have a different experience, I have to change. And I'm not saying you always have to change something physically, but most times when you change something internally, the physical also, there's something physical that happens to support and sustain that, because we are here to have a physical experience. But understand, if you don't make that change inside, you can't make the change outside. Now, you can use your willpower to say, oh, I'm going to stop talking to these people, right? You're not doing any internal changes, nothing on the soul level, nothing like that. And you can say to yourself, I'm going to stop hanging around these people because I don't want to do drugs anymore, I don't want to drink anymore, I don't want to smoke anymore. But you still have that. You still have the emotional injuries that you've been trying to cover up. If those things are still there, you can walk away. But understand, like a rubber band, you're going to be snapped back, because that which dwells within your soul still is there. It hasn't gone anywhere. You haven't done any soul work. You haven't done any internal work. So all those things that caused you pain before are still there. And when you get to a point where you don't want to feel those things anymore, you're going to have to revert back to what you were doing in order to have the pain subside. This is why people have relapse. This is why they relapse. Same thing with being sick. You know, drugs, being sick, it's the same thing. They say, oh, I relapsed, I'm sick again. It's because you didn't get the message. When you get sick, you're not taking care of yourself. So when you relapse, and some people do this, oh, you know, I'm feeling a little better, so I'm gonna clean the whole house. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z because I have so much energy. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then before you know it, they're back, and now they got pneumonia. It got worse. They're gonna say, oh, it turned into pneumonia. It's because you were not taking care of yourself. You did not get the message, and so you relapse. So when you try to, and that means you didn't get it on a soul level. You did not get it on a soul level. So the same thing with major changes in your life. You know, you can use your willpower and tell yourself, I'm not going to hang around these people anymore because, you know, I need to clean up my act. Okay. Usually when people say that, they're condemning the other people because they don't come from a place of understanding. They don't understand why they're in the same place you're trying to get out of. Most people don't look at it like that. You're like, you're toxic. I can't, I'm not going to hang around you anymore. I ain't going to have shit to do with you anymore. You're toxic. You're just toxic. And it's done in a way where you're condemning the other person, not understanding that you guys were both toxic together. So if you don't have compassion and love for them, you can't have compassion and love for yourself. And you can't have compassion and love for yourself without having compassion and love for someone else. This is why people relapse. This is why people try to make changes in their life, but that shit doesn't work because it's not done on a soul level. It's done on a head level. It's done on an intellectual level. And it's done with condemnation. It's done with a judgment. And you can't do that. Before I make any change, I make sure I'm clear of judgment. I'm clear of condemnation. I'm like, okay, how am I looking at this? How am I perceiving this? Because if there's any condemnation, if there's any judgment, I have to check it. Because the next thing that happens is the action that I take needs to come from a clear, clean space. It needs to be done without judgment, without condemnation, and it has to be done from a place of love. It has to be done from a place of love. If you want the result to be permanent and be successful, long-lasting, it must come from a place of love. That is what the universe sustains. Love. So if you have it, it will sustain it. If you want it, it will sustain it. If you want it, but you're sustaining something else, it will sustain that something else instead. You have to be clear and pure in your intention. So when you love, when you do these things that look like you're loving yourself, even with a diet, you can say, I don't want to be fat anymore. I'm going to go on this diet. Understand, you may lose weight, but there's a host of other things that will start to happen. Because you no longer, you use your willpower to lose the weight, so you no longer have, understand that being overweight is something, it's a message, all right? And if you take away that message, then the universe has to deliver the message in a different way. Because you're not getting the message. I don't want to be fat anymore. Okay? Why don't you want to be fat anymore? Is it because you love yourself? Or is it because you're tired of people making fun of you? Because whatever you're running away, if you're running away from anything, you're not living in truth. You're not living in love. Because love does not run away. There's no need. Because when you're standing in truth, when you're living in truth, there's no reason to run. There's no reason to hide. You stand strong. You stand proud. You stand firm. This is who I am. That's how it works. But when you're uncertain, when you don't stand on truth, when your foundation is weak, when it's made of sand, when you have doubt, all that stuff, that's when you want to hide. And that's what the universe is going to sustain. It's going to give you more and more reasons to hide. It's going to give you more and more reasons to doubt, because that's what you want to sustain. This is a universe of sustainment. This is what it does. But at the same time, it's sustaining also another thing, which is purification. It's sustaining its efforts of purification. That's what all this pain is about. Purification. Purification. Purification, people. That's all the universe is doing. It's trying to purify itself. Because the Creator knows this is not what I created. What I created was perfection. What I created was trust. What I created was truth. What I created is love. These are the things that I've created. And I built my universe in order to sustain that. So when things go out of an alignment, it is self-correcting. The soul is self-correcting. And the universe plays its part in that. It gives us events through the law of attraction so that we can see that which dwells within our soul. If you're struggling financially, look, here's something interesting. So back when I was younger, of course, we were like extremely poor. So poor to where like our rent was like $88, like low income poor. Like we were really like struggling, which is also suffering. So that struggle, and this is true for a lot of people. That struggle still, you know how you only have enough money to do what you have enough money to do? Well, that still stands today. Though I may make a lot more money than what I did when I was younger, I'm still having to, it's still going all out, I should say. Yes, I have more things, but it's still the same. If that makes any sense. More money, but the struggle is still the same. Same thing with people. There's millionaires there's people who bring in 6 figures, sometimes 7 figures, and they still have nothing left. They depend on it. Look, A person can be on welfare and work and live paycheck to paycheck. Someone can work at McDonald's and live paycheck to paycheck. Someone can work in an office setting and still work and live paycheck to paycheck. Someone can be have a salary of 6 figures and still live paycheck to paycheck. Someone can be a millionaire and still live paycheck to paycheck. It's still there. And they'll say, you know, I come from humble beginnings and blah, 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 and I have more money. But the same amount of money, the ratio of the percentage of money is still going out. And so they still depend on the next paycheck before they can do something else. So yes, they may be able to do more, but there's a certain struggle that is still there. And this is what I'm saying, like the universe will grant you more things if you desire more things. Sure, you can say you're worthy of more money, you'll have more money, but you'll just be spending more money. Isn't that what people do? They have more, they spend more, they have more, they spend more. You know, if you used to have 10% left out of your paycheck when you were struggling, but now you make more money and you still have 10% left, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You may have less left. Depends. You may be able to do more, but you don't have more left when it's all said and done. This is how the universe continues to bring us the feelings of being strapped, of not having enough. So yeah, you can have more, but you still won't have enough. You can have all you want, but you still won't have enough. You can have all the things, all the gadgets, all the toys, all the cars, multiple houses in different countries. You can have it all and still not have enough. Because the universe is designed to bring the soul that which dwells within the soul. At all times. Every time, all times. It doesn't matter. You can't escape it. The only way you can escape it is if you see it, you recognize it, you see it, you understand it, and you release it. Once it's released, once the pain is released from that, all things change. All things change. Things start happening where the ratio is changing. Your income ratio is changing. That what you're having to pay out is changing. Someone may have a windfall of a whole lot of money and pay off all their debt. And so now their 6-figure salary is just that. 6 figures, not having to be all spent on bills and other things. This is why it's so important to understand the universe. Learn the ways of the universe. Learn how it operates. Look, I stopped messing with man's laws a while back. I'm like, look, I can't live by the way man has chosen to live, because man has chosen to live in a way that has gotten us in this chaos that we see today. This is why it's so important to change. This whole narrow path, it's a better path, because you don't have to, there's no confusion about which way to go. You know, that's just, you know, if I can put it that way, it's like traveling and you know where you're going versus traveling and not knowing where you're going. You're like, hey, you know, I know where I'm going and I'm going to take this route and I'm going to get there. And there's no confusion versus, oh, which way do I go? Do I take this route? Do I take that road? Is this the road to that place or is this one? You got to sit down and break out the map, and this takes a lot of time, people. It takes a lot of time. So that's why I say just follow the narrow path. It's much easier. But the thing is, in order to follow the narrow path, you have to be willing to follow that path without, I should say, you have to be willing to give up the other paths. It's like a tree, you know. It's like one of these I think it's called a cypress tree that goes straight up, or a palm tree that goes straight up. When you look at a tree like that, there's only one path up. Only one path up. Versus this tree, this looks like, I don't know, what is that, magnolia oak tree? I don't know, it's huge as hell. Where the branches, damn, that trunk is big. Anyway, versus going up the trunk and having all those different paths. They all don't lead to the top. And this is why it's so important. Oh, why is my stomach feeling like this? Maybe because I didn't have breakfast. I did have breakfast. Oh, I think I know what it is. Uh-oh. I know my stomach's feeling like that. Because I had a whole a whole tray of macaroni and cheese, and I'm lactose intolerant. I knew something was gonna happen. I just didn't know how it was gonna happen. But anyway, hold on, let me turn up a little cool air in here. Oh, no wonder it was closed. I was like, why is it so hot? Let's go up here. Oh yeah, that hurts. Why you gotta wait until now to start doing stuff, macaroni? Macaroni Tony. Yeah, back to the tree. You know, decision making is like, you look at a palm tree, you make one, you already know this is why truth is so important. It's only one way. People, it's only one way. You can't take, you go on a regular tree with all these branches veering off into different directions. It's like, okay, that's man's path. But the best path is the palm tree path. It's just up. It's just one answer. It's just one answer. This is why it's so important to learn the truth. If you can look at the palm tree, like truth, that's all you have to learn is the truth. What are the truths of the palm tree versus what are the truths of all the other branches that veer off everywhere else? That's not a narrow path. That's a wide path. And so you can go to different places, but you're not going to get to the top. You're not going to get to the top. But even if you look at that, there's some trees that have branches that go off and shoot here and there. But there's only one that goes all the way up to the top. It's the trunk, all the way up to the top. Even this tree here. There's many branches, but you follow that one all the way up to the top. You know the one straight up, not the one that veers to the left, not the one that veers to the right. All the way up to the top. Straight up. That's all you need to know. Even the palm tree, even at the top of the palm tree. You know, and this happens too. People, they're on this path, they're like, yeah. And then they feel so great about themselves, and they're like, I'm great. I've been doing this a while. I can't make any mistakes. And they go off on one of these palm branches. And then they're stuck. But the narrow path, I can tell you, girl, I'm looking at her hair. Watch. Right there. I don't know if you see her. Her hair in the sunlight is like all over the place. And I wanted to say, hey, girl, you need to do something with your hair. Oh my gosh, that's funny. She didn't come. Oh, I think maybe she lived in her car. I don't know, but she just woke up. Oh, no, she ain't combing nothing. That weave, it's a weave. It's a blonde weave. I thought it was a white woman, but it's a black woman with a blonde weave or a wig, one or the other. But what I do know is it's not combed. Anyway, it's not. Women in their weaves crack me up. Because a lot of them think, oh, just put it on, sew it in, or throw it on, and just go. No, you still got to maintain that, If it's a wig, you still got to brush it right. Make sure it looks like the way it did when you bought it. Some of these wigs and weaves look like, woo! It looked like their natural hair did before they decided to get a weave. Which means what? They can't escape it. They cannot escape it. There's a lot of things we can't escape, people. A lot of things we can't escape. Oh yes. Oh yes. Anyway, but yeah, I'm big on this narrow path. I love the narrow path. You would love it too if you were on it. You would love it too if you were on it. Because you would feel the benefits. And that's the most important thing, is feeling the benefits. I know this video is not what the title was, so I may have to change the title because I kind of bounced all over the place on this one. Maybe I'll just title it Random Stuff. Since I talked about a lot of random stuff. But, if you can find it within yourself to be on this path and allow yourself to benefit from it, understand when you're on a narrow path, when you're on a path of truth and love, and that's your only goal, you're going to feel pain. But it's not because you're following truth. It's not because you're following the narrow path. It's not because you're following the loving path. It's because the addictions that you were once doing, the addictions that you were once engaged in, are no longer being engaged. And so it's no longer than a heroin addict which you can consider the wide path, decides to get on the narrow path and love themselves and stop doing heroin. What happens? They go into withdrawals. There's a lot of pain in the body, emotional pain, because you're not engaged in the addiction anymore, which means you're not, or translates to, you're not engaged in your familial addictions, meaning you're not getting the support of your family anymore, because if your family is on the wide path and you're on the narrow path, but they're comfortable with the wide path and you start living the narrow path, they can't even get their addictions met from you anymore, because addictions are a two-way street. You know, if you have a drug problem, understand that the drug dealer has the addiction to money, and when you stop using, when you start loving yourself, they can't make the money off of you. So the addictions go both ways, and it's important to understand this, because if you don't, you won't understand the pain, and you have to understand the pain. That's the whole point, is to understand the pain, not just experience it. You know, some people say, oh, life is just, about experiencing pain. It's just part of life. It's only part of life because you're not living in truth. You're not living the narrow path, which is why the pain is present. So it's good to understand. It's important. It's imperative that you understand that the pain is nothing more than the universe telling you that you're not on the narrow path. You're not living in truth, and you're not living in love. That's what the universe is telling you. Are you crossing the street? I don't know what's going on. Come on, girl. Look at the Partridge Family. Got the Partridge Family. Hello, girl. I don't know the Partridge Family song. Hello, world. I don't know. How does that song go? I don't know. I do know that one song. Doing the butt. Oh, sexy, sexy. Ain't nothing wrong if you want to do the butt all night long. Yay, yay. Yay, 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 yeah. Anyway, so I'm about to end this video. So, all that I said. Recap everything that I said. So you guys enjoy the rest of your, or I should say, enjoy your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Try to look at that narrow path thing. It's really awesome. It's really fun, I can tell you. I may not be surrounded by my family, and I may not be surrounded by those who I used to call my friends, but I am more happy, more content, more solid in my being than I have ever been. And if I had a choice to go back in time and be with my family, or be with those who I called my friends, I would not choose that. I would not choose it. Not for a split second. I would leave it alone. Because I'm telling you how the universe operates. You can control the universe to bring you the things that you desire. Whereas before, you couldn't control shit. You were just dealt hands, and you had no idea why you were dealt these hands. And that's going to be my next topic. All right, everybody, you guys have a great one, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.